Good morning, everyone. Keep your smack to yourself. Keep it out of the chat. That's what the kids say. Thank you for joining the morning meeting. Sean, Dan, and I are here for you. Run through the day book, run through the news, and then delighted to take your questions, comments, concerns, recommendations, or to tell us how good Dan and Sean look today in their fairway and green outfits. Any or all, as long as there's peace, love, and understanding in your heart, the presumption of grace extended to all. Thank you for your attention to these matters. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good
Morning,
morning.
Mark.
It's the day after. How are you doing the day after?
We're great. How was your flight home? Did you get
Yeah,
back into the city okay?
I did. I did. My Wisconsin experience ended right before the Brewers losing streak began in the midst of the weird double play. You both look great. Dan, you've worn that one before. You still don't know what color it is, but Sean knows. Sean, tell them what you're wearing.
Well, Mark, I'm wearing one of the nice, beautiful, comfortable, sleepable fairway and green polos with the morning meeting logo emblazoned on the left sleeve. This one, you can get them on either sleeve, the front, doesn't matter. But you can always go to twoway.tv/fairway. And Mark, if you use code TWOWAY20, you can get 20% off any item on the entire Fairway and Green site, whether that's a beautiful pullover, a quarter zip, or one of these lovely polos. The entire site, 20%
Amazing.
off.
And Dan, update us on how your boys are doing stealing your stuff. Is that still an ongoing problem?
Yeah, it is. And also, as I put up on X on Sunday, my wife got stuff, and she
Yeah.
wears it now too. So
And what does she say about quality, value, comfort?
loves it. She doesn't wear stuff she doesn't like. As she would tell you, she's the
Yeah.
boss of her, and she wears
Yeah.
what she wants.
Go to twoway.tv/fairway. Get stuff. It's all very nice. And again, you can get the two-way logo, you get the morning meeting logo, you can get our catchphrases emblazoned on your sleeve. Be the talk of the town, the envy of all you see, and dressed like Dan and Sean, which for many, the expression used to be think Yiddish, dress British. Now it's dressed like Sean and Dan.
I
Thank
hear
you
that a
again.
lot.
Thank you again for your attention to this matter. The president got home at like 3 a.m. I was up when he got home. I saw him walking across the lawn. It was pretty exciting. Don't ask me if I was still up or up already because I'm not saying. He was supposed to arrive at 10:50. I think it was a little later than that. Sleeps in at 1 o'clock, greets the president of the Argentine Republic, open press stakeout, bilateral lunch, closed press, and then 4 o'clock, an event participating in giving the Medal of Freedom to Charlie Kirk posthumously on what would have been Charlie's 32nd birthday. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Hmm.
Certain the vice president will be at that event, but no other public events for him. House is out. Speaker Johnson, another 10 a.m. press conference. If it's 10 a.m., it's a Speaker Johnson press conference. He's been doing that pretty much daily during the shutdown. Senator Van Hollen is having a press conference with Democrats representing Maryland and Virginia to discuss the mass federal worker firings. House Republicans having a group call for the conference at 11:30. Hakeem Jeffries, 2 o'clock press conference. Senate is working at 3 o'clock on another test vote on the government funding. No one expects it to solve the shutdown amidst the speaker saying yesterday he thinks this will end up being the longest shutdown ever, perhaps. That vote is 5:30 is when they're expected to vote there. And House Democrats coming back for an in-person caucus meeting at 6 o'clock, live coverage on two-way tonight at 6 o'clock. Supreme Court's hearing a couple cases starting at 10. Charlie Kirk, National Day of Remembrance today. Erica Kirk will be amongst those attending the ceremony at the White House. It's going to stream live on the Turning Point USA YouTube channel. At 4 o'clock, you can see the link in my Substack. Hillary Clinton and others are celebrating women at 10 o'clock this morning at Georgetown. It's the annual Hillary Rodham Clinton Awards ceremony. Dan, you ever been to that thing?
I have not. I first
Didn't
I've
even know
heard
it
of it.
existed. Yeah. 12:10, very precise time. Jerome Powell talking about the economy at a meeting of the National Association of Business Economists, Business Economics, rather. Sean, you ever been to one of their events? They're a
Yeah,
laugh
I'm
riot.
a subscriber.
They're a
Yeah.
laugh riot. All right. Lots to get to. And again, if you want to be in on the conversation, you're here on the two-way platform, please raise your hand. Um, uh, there's mixed reports about what's going on in Gaza, about whether people are going back to their homes, about infrastructure being, crudely rebuilt here, and about violence, reports that some Hamas forces are killing what they consider to have been collaborators with the Israelis. In Israel, there continues to be extensive coverage, obviously, of the homecoming of the hostages and demands that the remains of those hostages who were killed or died in captivity be returned. Not really clear where that stands. The president said lots of cryptic things yesterday about what other countries had done, what he had done, what his team had done, and skepticism amongst people like David Sanger of the New York Times about what the next phase will be, how difficult it will be. So, Sean, just to be forward looking here, what are you looking for next as signs of whether the plan piece is holding or not? Where are the weak links that you're looking at, or the strong links to say, yes, the president's right that this is not just a ceasefire, but a comprehensive peace deal?
I mean, I think the aforementioned things that you just mentioned, does violence ensue? Like, are there skirmishes? Does it escalate? Does the accountability of the prisoner swap into Gaza from Israel get agreed upon? Meaning, do they say, "Yup, this is what you guys said we do"? Because there's some question about whether that happened. Likewise, on the bodies of the hostages, there's going to be, I think, a you didn't give me what you said you were going to give me, and the question is, how extensive is that, and how deep is that? Is that, hey, it's an accounting thing. You screwed this up, or we're on we can't find it because I know Hamas is claiming some of the bodies are buried under rubble. Those are the things that kind of can become a tinderbox and can blow up. And so I think that's going to be, do they bubble up bigger, or are they kept at a low sort of ember?
Yeah. Dan, one of the underappreciated things about Donald Trump that's so smart that I bet you appreciate, because even though you don't support most of Trump's policies, you're not so inflicted by Trump derangement syndrome that you can't appreciate things he does that are smart, is he has no fetish about taking positions on things that if you're a politician, an elected official, you're supposed to take position on. Here's Donald Trump, charmingly straightforward as far as I'm concerned, on a two-state solution where amongst the things he gabbed about on Air Force One on the flight home last night, this 106, please. Oh, sorry.
Mr. President, Mr. Prime
No, no,
Minister.
that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for
Mr. Speaker.
Trump on Air Force One. I think it's 106. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong list here, but I don't think so. Do you have it? If you don't have it, I'll just say what he said. Anyway, Trump basically said in response to a reporter's question, I might be for a two-state solution. I might not. I might be for one state. I'll decide when I need to decide. And of course, that allows him to continue to what he did in order to get the deal, which is try to be friends with everybody. If he takes a position on a two-state solution, he's going to have some enemies. So what are you looking for, Dan, in terms of pressure on Trump to make moves next?
Well, I think keeping the two sides at the table. So to follow up on what Sean said, I think there's no doubt there will be skirmishes. And there's no doubt that there was a part of Netanyahu's coalition that didn't want the deal because they don't think the job is done. And there's a part of Hamas that didn't want a deal because I think, frankly, it's bad for business. Like, as long as there's an enemy and as long as there's resistance, they kind of can keep fundraising and keep doing what they're doing. So when these skirmishes come up, does Israel remain restrained? And do the Arab partners continue to say to Hamas, we're staying at the table? So then the question to you, as you said, is ambiguity is good. But I think at some point between now and the end of the year, there's got to be okay, X is going to put some troops on the ground to stabilize it, and money is going to come in, and we're going to start this process.
Yeah, really well said. So, Sean, I was listening to my friend Dan Senor, your friend too, on a podcast this morning. He's on Next Up later today. So I was doing like a little homework. And Dan was asked by Scott Galloway, who are the winners and losers of the deal. And amongst his losers were Europe and Canada. And it's kind of crazy. The Europeans and the Canadians, right before the deal, without any demanding any concessions from Hamas, recognize the Palestinian state. And yesterday, I thought the body language the president had towards all the world leaders, if you didn't watch the whole event in Egypt, it was incredible. He kind of called everybody out and he did like running commentary. And I thought pretty chilly towards the Europeans, all things considered. Is there any fallout going forward of the president's relationship with the Europeans, or will the Europeans now bend over backward to be supportive of Israel? Because Dan's view is they bet wrong on this thing.
It's interesting. I mentioned this last night on my show. Like, I find it fascinating that he didn't drill it. He teased Starmer a little yesterday, but I was
Teach
surprised
Macron too.
yeah. I was a little surprised that he didn't rub it in their face a little bit more. Those guys ran
Yeah,
for the hills as quick as they could.
yeah.
Canada in particular, the way Mark Carney and I actually anyway, I
Will they pay a price going forward, or will they
that's
bend
the
over
interesting. I
backwards
think
towards
it won't
Israel?
look. He won't forget. Trump does not forget these things, and so I think the question is, if the peace holds, he will constantly remember. You are the guys who said this. Da, 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 da. He will continue to tease them, but I think we'll this is a wait and see how it plays out.
But
Yeah,
Like
Mark,
if
wouldn't you
yeah.
say though that the Europeans and Canadians doing that helped Trump's leverage on Netanyahu?
Well, it's a totally good question. It's the same with public opinion in the U.S., right?
Yeah.
Those two things, I'm sure. And the other thing Dan said was that the Israeli bombing of Hamas in Qatar helped get the deal done
Totally.
because all the countries in the region are like, well, Israel's unrestrained by Trump and nuts. They'll bomb anybody. We can't, we can't have this in our neighborhood. So I don't know. And Trump yesterday, very closed-mouthed, very gave a lot of credit to his staff. Rubio tweeted and said,
Yeah.
someday maybe the story will be told. And he said that several times. But make sure everybody should know the president did a lot of this. Sean, why are they being so close-mouthed about it? Are they saving it for their books? Are they going to TikTok it to some to me or some other reporter? Like, why are they not telling the story about what happened? Because they're hinting that there's an incredible story here, including
uh
including Jared and Witkoff meeting face to face with Hamas, which we
Yeah,
know
it was
happened, but we
wild.
don't have the details of any of this.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, normally, as you know, and we all know, frankly, it's not some hidden secret of the last 8 years. There's always plenty of people to tell what's going on. But if you noticed last week, we announced a deal with Qatar to do some work at an airbase here. I mean, there is some stuff that I think we are. Dan's shaking
Yeah.
it. I mean, there's a lot of things that are happening that I think part of this, to answer your question, is everybody's like, look, we can't tell everyone what we gave away until we know if
Yeah.
this works. And that's what everybody has to agree to. We're all jumping into the trust tree together because if this doesn't work and we gave some stuff away, we're going to get killed. So we all need to agree. No one talks about this until like 30 days when we know it worked. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of
I,
little Easter eggs that have been dropped
Yeah, I
around.
agree. But I can tell you, if this were the Biden administration having done this deal, you'd be seeing backgrounders to Tom Friedman and David Sanger about all the great, amazing things they did to get the deal done. And I, as a reporter, I love more information, but very admirable that part of
Oh,
it
but
is the
I don't
reason
think
you
it's
said, but
look,
no, but
I
I
think
think
there's
part of it
another
is.
factor. All those
Yeah.
people that you just mentioned,
Yeah.
we don't have people on the right that we can drop those to in the same way, right? There's not.
Oh,
Nah, you could
I
drop in places.
disagree. I
You could
actually
drop in
think it's
places.
because, and again, I give them credit. It all worked so far.
Yeah.
The Arabs are some unsavory characters, and they're very transactional. And I think, as Sean just said, we quietly announced we were providing Qatar with an
Yeah.
unquestioned military protection net
Yeah.
on like
Be-
a
be-
Friday
be-
night.
because
There's
I
the
yeah
the,
because
the AI deal
yeah
with
yeah
Saudi Arabia. Look,
because
I think we
because I love you, I'm going to give you a chance to revise and extend. You said the Arabs are unsavory characters. Do you want to clean that up a little bit, or you're good with that?
know. Well, I mean, I think they're very, very transactional. They
So some
work.
some maybe some of them are. You're
Um,
you're not
uh,
saying you're not saying all Arabs are unsavory
no, I'm
characters.
saying that the leadership of a lot of these
Okay.
countries
Yeah.
do
Just make
business with whoever will do business
yeah
with them.
yeah yeah
And I think, again, it worked for Trump,
yeah.
but I'm not sure they want it all out there.
Yep. All right, I hear you. All right. Lots going on with China and Ukraine. Again, if you're familiar with my view of the American presidency, the whole goal is to have leverage over Netanyahu, Xi, and Putin. That's the whole game. And Trump, one of the things we don't know, all the details of is he did have leverage over Putin here, over Netanyahu here. Uh, Zelensky's coming on Friday to meet with the president. They say there's some things they want to talk about that they can only talk about in person. And amongst the things they're talking about is long-range missiles for Ukraine. And On China, Scott Bessent is currently playing both good cop and bad cop. On the one hand, saying the president's still likely to meet with Xi, saying there are talks going on, that there's some Chinese people coming, government officials coming to the U.S. to meet. On the other hand, he continues to say, the U.S. has weapons to fight back. So, Sean, how does the Middle East settlement, if at all, impact the president's attempts with Ukraine and China? Do they give him sway, momentum, something, or unrelated?
I think on Ukraine, yes, there's a sense of empowerment, a sense of we're riding high right now. I think that makes him feel good. I think he feels like a deal maker. He saw Europe get behind him and feel like, hey, this goes back to the previous question. See, I told you guys I know what I'm doing. And now it's, hey, let me show you I can do it again. I know how to leverage Putin. Just give me some more time. Let me talk about the tomahawks, the intelligence sharing, etc. So I think in that case, yeah, on China, not so much. I don't think China cares. I mean, China's not like, hey, you guys got a deal in Israel, so like, wow, we're worried. This is an economic thing more than anything else. But I will say that at the end of the day, we need this meeting to happen in Korea on the sidelines. I don't think this is to me a first step. It's not going to be a full summit where you get 18 deliverables, but I do think you'll get some breadcrumbs to say we agree to talk about this. We pause the tariffs on this until we meet, but they need that meeting to happen. We cannot escalate the way on both ends. We can on the rare earth minerals or on the export controls. Neither of those things are good for either of our economies. Both know it. And I think getting a way to say we agree to a 3-month pause until we can meet in Beijing or wherever is going to be important. So, but I don't think China cares about what just happened as much as probably Putin does, because Putin says this guy now feels strong and emboldened, and he's got a lot of things that he can use, and he's about to give away the store to show Europe that he played me.
Dan.
Well, I think that it goes to the question in Ukraine that we've always said, which is how do you get leverage over Putin? And I don't think Putin believes that Trump really wants to keep this war going. So I think the question is, does Trump now start leaning on Zelensky again to cut a deal to end this? Or does he say, look, I got to get leverage somehow over him and I'm going to give him like the tomahawks?
Yeah.
And I think in China, as Sean said, we both have leverage on each other. And I actually would say, Sean, China's the opposite, which is they don't want to give Trump more victories because they see it as a threat, as a struggle between the two countries. And it can't be good for both of us. So if Trump's successful on the world stage, it's not good for China.
Mandatory exit question. By Christmas, will Ukraine have hit Moscow with U.S. supplied Tomahawk missiles? Yes or no, Danny Boy Turrentine?
Not Moscow. That's a bridge too far.
Sean, Spicer.
No spice latte. I concur. No, not hitting Moscow. Definitely not.
The correct answer is yes.
Oh, you hit Moscow with tomahawks.
Yeah.
And we're suiting up.
I think they hit a military base near Moscow.
Well, they're going to hit something. They're going to hit something in the Moscow metroplex with no human beings in it. Maybe some unfortunate cleaning staff who work overnight. That's what I think they're going to do.
Wowzers.
Moscow metroplex. It's the only way to try to end the war at this point. And this president is a peacemaker. I don't know if you've heard that. All right, the shutdown continues unabated. It appears now that all the leverage points we talked about aren't going to be leverage points to end it. The military is going to get paid. The president doesn't seem to care about firing federal workers. And now there's a new thought process in the Democratic Party that says, well, okay, let's lose this fight and make it clear that we fought for health care for people. Let the premiums go up and then have the Republicans own that in the midterms. In other words, not try to fix the problem, but let the voters decide. Dan, where are you today on the most likely place and time and manner in which this ends?
I think it's the end of this month still. And I think what's so remarkable is like in past shutdowns, the party shutting it down was never going to get what they wanted. Like Obama was never going to agree to Ted Cruz's demand to undo the ACA. What's so kind of comical about this is everybody, I think, knows what's going to happen, which is you're going to reopen the government and you're going to do an ACA deal.
Yeah.
I think when a couple more paychecks get missed and let's say TSA starts to incrementally have more problems and delays, it's undone. And I think the premiums going up will be a Democratic talking point, as it should be.
Yeah, Sean.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I mean, look, the Republicans are going to address healthcare. There's no way in on God's earth they're going to give a straight up extension. These were COVID subsidies. This is, I mean, the idea that we're like, I still can't believe the Democrats want to hang their hat on this. A bunch of payoffs to big insurance companies, increased premiums due to COVID. I mean, this is insanity. And I think that if Republicans are smart, they recognize how to sort of go in surgically and say, we're dealing with the premiums. We're going to make sure that people don't, have a huge gap, or phase it in. So it's a 200%, in the first year, and it kind of titrates down over the next couple or something. But like, there's a solution to be had here. And I think if Democrats went the other way, as you proposed initially, that would be fantastic. Open the government back down. Let us solely fix the thing. Pick off 5-10 Democrats on the Senate side that would be part of the solution. Win, win, win. I mean, I'm great with that. But I will say once again, the Republicans need to be holding the Democrats' feet to the fire more. This idea of like, we're going to vote every 3 days, like this is the 1800s and we've got to wait a fortnight in between so that we can go home to Mrs. Lincoln, is insane. Thune should be holding a vote every single hour, right? And making this painful for them, instead of being like, if you'd like to go home for the weekend to go to a fundraiser, we'll see you back here Tuesday afternoon. This is, I find it ridiculous that Republicans are not putting more pressure on them.
It's also wild that like they fired those CDC people on Friday night and then they rehired them on Sunday night. It's just, and they're like, oh, we're going to pay these people. We're going to pay these people. Like, you can tell the White House is super sensitive to the optics of hurting people.
Yeah.
So I think it just continues.
Okay. I need you both to put your hands up so we can see them. And I need neither of you to utter the word Siri or Alexa. I don't want any searching going on. Who's the youngest person ever to receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom? And how old were they? Davy Crockett is an excellent guess, but not right. Dan?
The youngest person.
All right, here comes the hint. It was an
idea.
athlete. Or it is an athlete.
Tiger Woods.
Yeah, wait, no. Who? Mary Lou Retton?
Those are both great guesses for a variety of reasons. It is a gymnast.
Oh, Natalie Coleman.
Simone Biles.
Simone Biles, correct. Sean Spicer wins. Dan, you got to buy Sean a piece of Fairway and Green merchandise.
Right,
Sean, what would you like? I recommend the boxers.
Listen, I'm telling you, the quarter zip is so.
Get the boxers. Dan, buy him some boxers.
He's getting off cheap.
All right, today on what would have been his 32nd birthday, Charlie Kirk will be awarded that honor. Sean, what's the status of the political momentum for not just Turning Point, but for MAGA, because of people being energized by the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Is it too soon to say, or do you see signs that it's having a tangible impact on the movement in a positive way?
I think it's too soon to say the full impact. There's no question when you look at the rallies that Turning Point's having and the number of people that are coming out and the enthusiasm at those rallies, the number of signups. Remember, in this political environment, data is king. Being able to track somebody, to follow up with them is everything. It saves you a ton of money. It creates an imprint on your voter file, so we know what you care about, what motivates you. What's going on now, I think, isn't just about the short term. It's about the long term. Being able to get these people activated, motivated, and engaged for potentially decades. So I think the full impact is still to be seen, but this has been big, big, big. And the thing is, today will continue that. So the more that, this event today just reminds people what's going on. We're 20-something days out from 2 elections. I know from the anecdotal conversations I've had in both Virginia and New Jersey, people say that there's a sign of motivation among young people in particular that they haven't seen in the past. So I think it's short-term and potentially really impactful in the long term.
Yeah. Dan, I've not pressed them, although I've asked, but I've seen no reporting anywhere about how much money they've raised since Charlie was killed. But yeah. I think they've raised both from small donors online, but also from large donors. So that's kind of but again, just thinking about the politics of the implications of politics, that's a sleeping giant, right?
Yeah, and I don't think the White House, at least in the short run here, and probably through Vance's reelection or Vance's election, is going to allow Turning Point to just, totally collapse. Yeah. Selena Zito and I have actually exchanged messages on this very topic, because that is the question that I wonder is, by next summer into the fall with time, is the energy still there? And she was sent me some photos of, like, in Western Pennsylvania, just young people meeting And she's like, I'm telling you, it's real. They've been touched, they're moved, they're engaged. And she's like, I really don't think this is going to dissipate soon. So
I said this a while ago, but when I was at the RNC and we would send interns out, they would be like, hey, we'd say, hey, can you go take these T-shirts? There's a Hillary rally at George Mason University. We want you to go out and stand there and hold these signs. And they'd be like, can we put everything in a bag and wait till we get off the metro? Like, you would never want to be seen in we call it the DMV, the District, Maryland, Virginia, in like any Republican garb. None. And now you walk down the streets and the vendors in DC sell MAGA stuff, right? The shift, the sea change, the culture is so different. And these kids on college campuses, we talked about a few earlier, a couple of weeks ago after the death of Charlie. But like, there's a sense of like, I'm going to wear my MAGA hat with pride. And that's a very different signal that's going on.
When I was a kid in DC, even the elephants at the National Zoo were a little embarrassed.
They were.
There you go. Okay. Those of you who wish the show were just about the relationship between politics and media, you'll enjoy this segment. We're at the day when Pentagon reporters are supposed to sign Pete Hegseth's pledge not to leak information. Almost every news organization is going to decline to sign it, which means unless the Pentagon backs down, there'll be no reporters covering the Pentagon for the
Legacy.
most part. Well, no, it's not just legacy. News outlets broadly reject Pentagon rules before deadline for signing. There are some non-legacy organizations also, but if the Pentagon's not going to be covered by the New York Times and the Washington Post and the networks and Fox, including Fox,
Fox and Newsmax.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there you go. One American News so far is the only one who said they're signing, and you see there the long list of folks who aren't. If you're listening on the podcast, trust me, it's not signing is a long list, including Newsmax, the Washington Times, the Washington Examiner, and a few others on the right.
Yeah, Fox isn't on there, but they have said they're not signing it.
Exactly. So we'll see where that goes. Over the weekend, two leading figures in the Trump administration had confrontations with the media. One on Sunday, you've probably seen this, but for those who haven't, you'll find it interesting. I think this is Vice President Vance. There's a long-running leitmotif, a through line, since George Stephanopoulos left the Democratic politics to go be an anchor at ABC News. Often, if a Republican's feeling maybe a little under the gun or they don't like George's questions, they just lash out at George. Now, J.D. Vance did not say, hey, George, former Clinton advisor, but he all but said that in this confrontation at the very end of George's interview with Vance, where George spent, the vice president's right, a great deal of time asking him the same question over and over about the border czar's alleged acceptance of $50,000 of taxpayer money. I don't know why George didn't make the point about it being taxpayer money. That seemed to me to be the most important thing. But here's the end of that exchange.
So you don't, what was caught on the tape, you're saying right now you don't know whether or not he kept that money.
I don't know what tape you're referring to, George. I saw media reports that Tom Homan accepted a bribe. There's no evidence of that. And here's, George, why fewer and fewer people watch your program and why you're losing credibility. Because you're talking for now 5 minutes with the Vice President of the United States about this story regarding Tom Homan, a story that I've read about, but I don't even know the video that you're talking about. Meanwhile, low-income women can't get food because the Democrats and Chuck Schumer have shut down the government. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to pay our troops because Chuck Schumer has shut down the government. You are focused on a bogus story. You're insinuating criminal wrongdoing against a guy who has done nothing wrong instead of focusing on the fact that our country is struggling because our government's shut down. Let's talk about the real issues, George. I think the American people would benefit much more from that than from you going down some weird left-wing rabbit hole where the facts clearly show that Tom Homan didn't engage in any criminal wrongdoing.
It's not a weird left-wing rabbit hole. I didn't insinuate anything. I asked you whether Tom Homan accepted $50,000, as was heard on an audio tape recorded by the FBI in September 2024, and you did not answer the question. Thank you for your time this morning.
No, George, I said that I don't.
Up next, we'll be right back.
Steamrolled right over. Guys, a quick question before we show one more piece of tape. Is this a better band name or book title? Weird left-wing rabbit hole. Band name or book title? Dan, band name or book title?
Band name.
Band
Sean?
name. Band.
I think it's a good book title. All right, here is Donald Trump also on Sunday on Air Force One. He's talking to Dasha Burns, former NBC News correspondent, hired by Politico to host their Sunday podcast. They call it a Sunday show, I think. And she's asking the president a lot of questions. And all of a sudden, the president realizes he claims he doesn't know who Dasha Burns is, and he doesn't like her questions. And then he expresses his macro view of the Politico. Roll that, please.
On China, are you considering walking that back?
Who are you with?
Politico, Dasha Burns, sir.
Dasha Politico. Politico's gone bad. They've been so wrong about everything. Politico. Politico has been so wrong about everything. Let's get somebody else to ask some questions. You mind? Is that all right? Because Politico is fake news.
The president's also very unhappy with Time Magazine. This is the least surprising Trump story I've ever reported. The president very happy to be on the cover because he loves being on covers, but he doesn't like the picture. Time Magazine wrote a relatively good story about me, but the picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. This is a Truth Social post. Really weird. I never like taking pictures from underneath angles, but this is a super bad picture and deserves to be called out. What are they doing and why? And the headline is his triumph. It's a very favorable story. The president yesterday at one of his media events in the Middle East said he'd been watching a lot of the coverage on the plane and he liked the coverage of the trip. But again, this is from Hegseth to Vance to Trump. Dan, what's the state of the Trump administration's relationship with what this reporter calls the dominant media?
Well, I think in 2.0, the entire team has adopted Trump's mentality, which is just when you don't like the questions, go on the offense and attack in very personal and aggressive terms. And you always ask yourself, if you behaved that way at work or you behaved that way in front of your kids, how would you feel? To me, it's an unprofessional, jerk move. It just is. In Pam Bondi, in her hearing, right? Whether it's J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, of course he knows who Dasha Burns is. It's to belittle. It's to make her feel small. It's to make her feel irrelevant. It's to hit her and put her down. And I thought J.D. Vance, it's the same thing. He's just trying to insult him and put him down. I mean, look, it is what it is. They're not going to change. But nobody would, if we behaved that way, if you were in a corporate setting and you behaved that way, you would be in trouble.
I thought he was very polite to Dasha, by the way.
Yeah. Do you know what Monty Burns would say about Dasha Burns, right? She'd say, Dasha Burns, doesn't ring a bell. That's what he'd say.
Well, first of all, I don't know why it's somehow we're supposed to just sit back and take it. Here's another.
But George was asking the vice president. Here you have a senior member of the administration. Well, but he never answered. The senior member of the administration reportedly, and I haven't heard anybody dispute the reporting, it's not the worst Mr. Burns imitation ever. My son's is worse. Thank you very much. I glanced at the chat. I should have done it. He got $50,000 reportedly, caught on audio tape from my tax money. My tax money paid for that 50 grand. So it wasn't a private bribe. It was a setup. It was a sting. So I want to know, as just my former colleague George Stephanopoulos, where's my 50,000? Is it still in the pocket of Tom Homan, or did he return it? It seems like a legitimate question.
Sure. Okay. First of all, fair enough, right? So you can ask a question. If I tell you at some point, and there's plenty of stuff like people, issues, I'll say, hey, that's an interesting question. I don't know. He said, I haven't seen the video. Right. I don't know. And he goes, but you have to answer this question. And what JD said is, here's what I do know. He was cleared. So that's what I cared about.
Not true. Not true that he's been cleared.
Well, he wasn't charged. He wasn't charged.
Trump came into office.
But
not been cleared.
Well, the FBI said that
if you're a reporter and you ask a question and you don't get an answer, you face a choice about how long to persist. Right. And usually my role is
how many times we're all watchers of that show and of other Sunday shows.
Yeah.
Name one time a Democrat has been followed up with more than twice on any question before the host moved on. JD made his point. He didn't know what the video was.
Well, he didn't want to answer the question.
Stephanopoulos wanted a soundbite.
I would have said,
rude, and when he chose to answer the question at the end, he cut him off.
Yeah. Greg Kelly has texted me to say that the money comes from federal seizures, not from the tax money. But I say to you, Greg, all money's fungible. All money is fungible.
I
Look,
just
if
think it's a bad look to keep doing this.
I would like the vice president to be a guardian of our money. I don't care if it came from seizures. I want him to be a guardian of our money. He should be curious about where that money went, not dodging the question. That's
Look,
what I think.
I'll say
But
this:
how
when
about the
Kamala
overall?
Harris dodged
yeah,
questions to
yeah,
Brett Baer, the right went nuts.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like,
Just,
I mean,
just,
this
just
is
again.
Trump does bully ball. It's just what he
Let
does.
let me ask you. Let me ask you this to close out our media section, which is again, they're wildly popular with the community.
With the kids.
Should Democrats, if you're running for president in 2028, should you adopt this as part of your arsenal to go after the media when you don't like what they're doing? Should that be part of what
They're
Democrats?
part of your party. So if you want to
Well,
piss
but
them
but they
off-
aren't any. But they are less and less.
That's not true. Yeah,
They are less
I
and
disagree.
less.
I mean, look, my advice is you need to be who you are, right? Trump is an authentic bully. Like so his whole team is bullies because it's an audition for one.
Well,
Sadly, Mark, I think you're right.
yeah.
I do think that the base is going to demand the same punch in the face attitude. Again, I think it's just unprofessional.
Well, but if you do it, but if you do it on the merits, I think it's okay. So, for instance, Sanders does it. Bernie Sanders, if you ask him superficial questions, if you ask him about gossip or personality, he'll say, quite frankly, you should be asking me about poverty. And the mood of the Sanders wing of the party is the press is horrible. So
yeah, I agree.
So I don't think it has to be like authentic. I think it can be
But
authentic.
the difference between the right and the left is the folks on the left think that the media isn't enough in their pocket. That's
Right.
the problem.
Yeah.
That's the big difference.
Well, no,
is that
sometimes they
we're
think
like, you're against us. They're like,
sometimes
you don't like us enough.
Sometimes they think they're not tough enough on Trump, or they're too corporate, or as Sanders does, that they're not focused enough on the right issues, and all of those have some truth to them. Raise your hand if you want to get into the conversation, particularly if you've never raised your hand before on this program. Lastly, a bunch of stuff going on. Continue to be private polling and some public polling in both the New Jersey and Virginia races that are making Democrats nervous. Mondami had a big rally last night that what's her name spoke at Letitia James, and she was defiant about her indictment. In Maine, Democrats got their candidate, the former governor, but she may not win her primary. What's the other big political development I wanted to mention? Don't recall. Gentlemen, any in our political potpourri category, anything you want to weigh in on?
I think, by the way, the other thing might have been Louisiana. The former governor passed on
it's not running
and
for
that
the
was going to
Senate,
be
yeah.
the fourth seat
Yeah.
potentially. Yep.
Yeah, but Schumer got most of this.
I'll just say, look, I continue to believe Virginia is trending the right way. I think in from bottom of the ticket up, Miaris outside the margin of error, John Reed tied, Winsome down a little, but the wave is moving in the right direction for them. The question is, can they keep their foot on the pedal long enough to get them over the finish line the final 20 days? But I will say that the one thing that we always wanted before looking, several months back, we talked about the state of the DNC and Ken Martin as chairman. If Democrats lose both Virginia and New Jersey, I got to imagine okay, frame that shot. Take that right now. Ready?
Yeah.
Go. Because here's what's going to happen. If that happens, which I still believe I am a believer that that's very, very possible, if not likely right now. If that happens, I got to believe that day after at the DNC is going to be a shell shock.
Dan, who's the favorite to win the New Jersey governor's race right now?
Republicans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I mean, you talk to people, the trend lines are bad. She can't seem to kind of get back on offense. She's still on defense. Watching football and stuff this weekend in New York City, obviously, is the media market for Northern New Jersey. It's all against her. And I think the interesting thing, by the way, just for me, is Maine. Can Janet Mills win the primary? Because usually when Schumer gets a big recruit like this, it kind of like the opposition peters out because everyone gets on board.
Yeah. Janet Mills getting into the best thing for Republicans.
You mentioned opposition. It's going to be interesting to see who provides opposition research on these two particular candidates in the race. They've never run before. They run small businesses. I'm sure there's stuff that could be fodder for negative mail and negative, planted news stories. We'll see if that backfires. On New Jersey and Virginia, I will say it wasn't that long ago when the sort of conventional wisdom of the Democratic Party was, well, all of our current leaders are horrible, but these two ladies are going to win. They're going to be candidates for president or at least vice president in 2028. And now, I mean, it's to some extent because they both turned out to not be particularly good candidates. They're not particularly good at answering hard questions, which is part of the job. All right,
Well,
time
and
for
I
your
think what you also see, Mark, is neither has proactive, positive ideas.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
all
they have
negative.
some, but
Well,
they're
no, but I mean,
overshadowed.
like
They have
you
some on the
gotta-
economy. They both have some ideas in the economy. They do.
I agree with
small.
Dan.
Very, very small.
Very small. They're not great, but they're actually more than most. I give them credit. All right, time for your questions here. If you're on the two-way platform, please raise your hand if you'd like to get into the conversation. We'll bring you in. You'll say where you are geographically. You can city, county, planet, whatever specificity you want to share with us, and then ask what you want. And we start with Stephen. Stephen, welcome in. Unmute. Love the shirt. Love the beard. Love it. Love
Hey,
everything.
thanks. Good
The
morning. Hey,
smile.
Sean, I just got to give a quick apology real quick to Sean. The last time I was on here, I said I hated you. But what I was saying was when you were in the White House as a result of me being a liberal. Now I'm absolutely in love with you and I think you're the best. So
I'll take it.
Yeah. I just wanted to clean up my mess for my side
All
of the street.
Yeah, that's all right. Thank you
Just
for
to
that.
jump on the media question, like what you had brought up earlier, I think what's interesting is if you go back and you just watch the way that reporters of all news networks, for the most part, in the mainstream, speak to Democrats, they allow them so much time. Like, just go look at like Senator Warren, for example, and be like, "Well, what do you think about this?" And then she'll overtalk them. They won't fight back during that talk back, and then give her a 2-minute diatribe about some kind of crazy nonsense that has nothing to do with the question. That's just railroading the fact that Republicans are shutting the. It's like just complete nonsense. And if JD Vance makes any kind of comment, or anybody on the right makes a comment, just to make their own point, they're like pushback, 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 pushback. And I think if you just go watch it and try to count the amount of times that they try to follow up and push back on Republicans making a point versus the diatribes that they allow the Democrats to make the point, Dan, I think it shuts your point down. I mean, to Sean's point, the Democrats don't think they're in their pocket enough, and they clearly do not allow Republicans to speak their mind for the most part. And so what's your honest answer to that?
Stephen,
Dan.
based on that performance, I'd like you to take over the show. That was incredible.
That's great.
That
I
was
have a
very
pitch
good.
for a show for you, Mark. I'm in.
Okay, that was awesome. Dan, if, high energy response, please. Try to
Yeah,
keep up with
no,
Stephen.
look, I don't disagree with you that if you go on ABC, CBS, or NBC, as a rule, it is favorable for Democrats. They're going to give you kind of time and space. And as a Republican, you're going a little bit into the lion's den, right? Just like if a Democrat goes on Fox News, you know, it's going to be a little more hostile than if, you know, JD Vance went on Bret Baier, right? I think, in my personal opinion, there's a way to do it that you're not a jerk and it's not a nasty personal insult when you push back. I've seen candidates do it, and I hear you, right? I mean, sometimes you just get frustrated. We're all human. If it happened once or twice, I'd say, okay, they just snapped. It's live TV. They had enough. But when I look at a lot of the cabinet secretaries in hearings, Donald Trump, JD Vance, to me, they're all adopting the same thing, which is just punch right in the face with a personal insult. And that's not how I operate. It's not how I would want my kids to operate. And I'll go back to, if you're in a company and you were in a meeting or with a client and you talk to them like that, you would be in trouble. And after a while, you'd be fired.
So I have two things to say to that. First of all, those two people you mentioned, Donald Trump and JD Vance, are fine American patriots, just to let you know, Dan.
You can be a jerk and a fine patriot at the same time.
Second of all, the kind of people that we're talking about, JD Vance and Donald Trump, are not the kind of people that work inside corporations. They're the kind of people that build businesses, and that's a fact. And so the kind of people that build businesses are the kind of people that speak their mind and speak the truth to power. And I think that's what we find. The people that work inside those corporate media hubs are people that are guided by an insight or sort of a lane that drives their I don't want to use the word agenda because it's so, conspiracy theorial or whatever, but there is a left wing bias. And I think that if everybody would just sit up and say, hey, look, I'm Kamala Harris, and I agree that ABC is on my side in some small way, but make it obvious that we all understand, then maybe the Democrats could start to gain some trust. Now, you don't really need our trust because my son basically has become a communist, and my mom is a far left-wing liberal, and I'm, Mr. MAGA. And so it's like, do we really need it, right? Everybody has an audience. But when you think about CNN, ABC, you want those people to tell the truth, and you want them to ask straight up questions to everybody and give the same pushback to Senator Warren's diatribe on whatever the case may be that she wants to get across when they're asking her a question about some bad policy that she's interested in, right? It's just not fair news, if that's fair.
Well, look, unfortunately, the media is tribal now, and it's the same exact thing on the right. It's the same exact thing. Right.
So we can all agree to that, right? So like for the people in the chat, right? There's a couple of people that, and this is literally just for our show here, but like we can admit that the media is tribal. And so we can admit that George Stephanopoulos is trying to push an idea that Republicans are shutting the government down or that Tom Homan is a criminal, right? Instead of allowing people to speak and talk about the merits of the questions and allow people the same pushback. I appreciate your honesty. That's why I love this show. That's why I love you, Dan. I think you're great. I would love to have you over for a fine cup of coffee one day, and I could tell you about all the bad policy problems that you promote.
Sean,
we might not need alcohol for that, not coffee.
I think you're a fine American patriot also, sir.
Sean, anything you want to say?
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you,
Stephen, thank you. Grateful to have you
Thanks,
on.
God bless you guys.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Thomas, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know. Hold on. My screen just went haywire. Here we go. Thomas, thank you for joining. What's on your mind for Dan and Sean? Man, this is a bad day here. Up. My apologies. Already getting complaints. Thomas, you're good. Unmute, please. Can you do that? One more. There you go.
Sure. I want to change subjects a little bit with the Section 230. When do you think that we should take media platforms' liability off the table and hold them accountable, as well as people that post and basically bully on the media platforms and don't hold anybody accountable? So I know this has created a lot of problems and suicides and so forth. So when do you think that the American, I guess maybe a law or so forth, take it off? What are your thoughts about that?
Sean M. Spicer?
I'm sorry. So is the question to reform 230?
Yes, sir.
I think it needs big reform for obvious reasons because of how it was initially, how we defined these folks as publishers and not content providers. So I mean, I think the problem is, and Mark has brought this up in the past, I think Dan would agree, the tech lobby is right up there with pharma, big food, the gun lobby, like as a force. And I would be interested in my colleagues' ranking because I would say to some degree they might be number one. If not, I mean, pharma and big food are somewhere in there, but I think the impact of Maha has diminished them just a little bit. And so I think as much as it deserves it, it's hard to break through because these guys will go to members of Congress to make it clear how many jobs are in their district, how many companies, and blah, blah, blah. And you saw, like, even this morning, Instagram, the head of Instagram was out on the Today Show trying to claim that somehow all these reforms that they're making are making it safe for kids. They're doing what they can, but to make it go away. But we need serious reform in that. And I think too many lawmakers are willing to do what they can to adhere to big tech.
Yeah, but my point, though, Sean, is that on TV or newspapers, you cannot, unless it's opinion, lie about things. You you hold them accountable. And I don't know why we're not doing that.
Well, because 230 won't give you the authority right now. The same way that you have to prove malice under Sullivan, that if you want to go after the Washington Post or something and say that they actually had, you have to show it. It costs a lot of money to do that, a lot of lawyers, and so they have a huge amount of legal protection.
Well, and look, the challenge is that news is no longer just ABC, CBS, and Fox, right? When I was a kid, you just turned the dial on the television. Now it's you get news through social media, you get news through cable. We've talked a lot about how Democrats treated the media during COVID, right? The Biden administration reaching out and saying, shut down these, what they thought were conspiracy theories about the vaccines. Well, then it turns out a few years later, maybe they weren't conspiracy theories. So it's always a question of kind of who, what are the facts and the facts as you see them. And I think the tech companies would just argue that they trying to shut down everybody is impossible. I sat in a meeting where Al Franken and a tech CEO got into a fight over this because Al Franken was like, I'm the only senator who's created content, right? You guys need to regulate this. And the CEO argued, no. And he said, you do it for China.
Dan, is basically holding them accountable a way of regulating them, self-regulating them?
Well, look, again, when you say holding them accountable for what? Conspiracy theories, for half-truths? I mean, look, you watch content across all platforms. And as a Democrat, I see some of the things said in various places and online about Democrats that are just not true.
Exactly.
Yeah. You start saying that everyone who tells a half truth has their license, or are you going to license cable news?
Well, here's my follow-up question. How do we do our FCC licensing? Should that change? Do we give a...
I think that's a great question. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Thomas, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep, thank you. Great
question.
Yeah, really good question. Thank you. Okay. Haley, welcome in. Haley, put that thing away. I'm not putting you on camera with that thing. That thing away.
Ruh-roh.
All right. Unmute.
You're going to blow away outside, Haley.
Oh, it's so cold, guys. What happened to New York? It's freezing. First of all, it's a great, great day. I was not here yesterday because I was awake till like the start of 2A watching all the homecomings of all the hostages, and just what a fantastic day yesterday was, even all the way here, just watching, listening to everybody in Israel. So I couldn't be happier today. I'm waiting to take this off for the last 24. But my question is, I was actually, when the deal was implemented, like on Friday, Thursday, Friday, I was waiting to see, out of the people who were calling for a ceasefire, I was waiting to see some kind of response, some kind of acknowledgement that this is an amazing thing that's happening, that not even giving credit to President Trump, because I knew that was never going to happen. But why? I don't know if this was talked about on your other shows, and I apologize for asking the question again, but why is the ceasefire now crowd completely silent? And I want to know if you guys have any insight as to why.
Yeah, it's an interesting question because one could attribute it to psychology or tactics or strategy, or just they just don't want to ever give Trump credit. I don't know what the answer is. It's some combination of those things, but it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Now, if you want to give the most charitable thing I could say is they still believe there was genocide, and so they're still upset about a genocide. That and you don't get over that easily, even if the genocide stops. But it's incredible. It's totally incredible. Sean, thoughts?
I'm with you. I sort of there was one woman that sent out a tweet that had a pretty decent following the other day that said, I wish we could have done this without Trump, or something, like we need to do it. And I'm like, why, if you actually care about lives and humanity, then why do you care who solved it? Like, you want peace, you want the destruction to stop. And yet there's such TDS that people are like, yeah, I don't want people to die, but I just don't want Trump to be the guy that does it. That's so sick and deranged that you care about who stopped the depravity. So I think it's a great question. I share Mark's intrigue as to why this is the case, but I think it's probably all the aforementioned things he said.
Dan, you're in charge of those people. What are they doing?
Look, I think you guys both said it pretty well. The other thing I'll just add, and I've said this in kind of the macro, war can be good for certain people's business. It to gin up outrage, to constantly have an enemy to point at and say, they're the reason life is terrible, that they have to be stopped, whether it's Hamas or, Trump or whatever. And if there's peace, it's like, now what do we do? Like we got to look in the mirror. We have to take responsibility for our actions. We have to rebuild, right? So the issue now for the Palestinians is who's going to govern, build a civil society, not, terrorism and trying to destroy Israel all day long.
A new way of life.
I'll give you another one that really is just incredible to me. That is not just about the left, it's also about the press. I've always been troubled, but that Israel, the unfairness of Israel having to free like 2,000 people to get one person back.
Right.
But then in this case, the Israelis are getting back innocent people who were kidnapped and held in inhumane conditions, and the Israelis are releasing murderers.
Yes.
Like it's not just the numbers disparity; it's the nature of the people. The people on the left should be outraged that killers are being released, but instead they just silence.
Well, I think even Israel, they made a deal, right? And I think watching some of the coverage, some of the hawks in Israel are livid about that.
Yeah.
Like, how could we do
that?
Again, when you make a deal.
Part of the problem, and again, Dan Senior mentioned this on the Galloway podcast. Israel does this thing where they build up the hostages. This time more than ever, but always Israel doesn't downplay the hostages. They publicize the biographies. They humanize them, and that makes them more valuable to Hamas or whoever's taking the hostages. So Israel brings part of this on themselves by choosing a much different strategy than most governments take regarding when their people are taken hostage.
I can't believe. I mean, to me, the strength of the people of Israel to watch people who committed these atrocities get let out, while in return they're getting back innocent hostages, 20 of them. To me, I just can't. Some of the stories, and Michael yesterday mentioned a couple, like people who are personally connected to this, watching people who did this get freed, while in return innocent civilians and the bodies of people that were killed,
Sean,
what they get back.
Israel didn't release any terrorists that took part in October 7th. So October 7th, all the prisoners that were released were not from the October 7th Nakba. They were from Intifada and from terrorist attacks like before. From what I know, Israeli reporters saying nobody that was committed on October 7th was released in this prisoner swap. So if that's true, I hope that that's true.
Yeah,
because
I'm not sure that's
what
true,
was the
but
point?
I don't know. Haley, thank you. Grateful
Thank you, guys.
to you
Love
always.
you.
Thanks for coming on. Sean M. Spicer, what do you have tonight?
Well, New Jersey, Virginia, polling, plus obviously New York City and others. Jim McLaughlin, one of the president's pollsters, he's going to be with us tonight to break it all down and see if I'm way off, if everyone doesn't think that this can be pulled off. But I need Jim to reaffirm me or tell me I'm off track.
Yeah. Two-way tonight, 6:00. Mark Bednar will join, Republican strategist, Wisconsin native, and others. We'll see at 6, and we'll have full coverage of the day's events, including Charlie Kirk's service or the Freedom Medal, Presidential Medal at 4. Also at 4, David Bonson will join me for another one of our conversations. We're going to focus on the AI's impact on the economy. 4:00 today. It's only for the two-way community, private event. You can't watch it on YouTube. So if you want to join and ask David questions about AI or about the economy in general, investment advice, go to twoway.tv/TBD. Sign up now for the event. You can also sign up there for David's newsletter. Many of you have done that already and are enjoying it, as you tell me regularly, called the Dividend Cafe. You can sign up for both the event and the newsletter at twoway.tv at TBG. The newsletter is free, comes out daily, and it's excellent. Then at 7:00 tonight, Michael Moynihan is joined by the great Steve Krakauer, who is one of the best media analysts around, also produces Megyn Kelly's programs. Join for that. And then later today, my Megyn Kelly show. Next up, we'll drop. My guests are Dan Senor, my dad, Mark Halperin, former senior government official. We'll talk about the fallout from the peace deal. And my reported monologue is on I think what are way too underappreciated aspects of why President Trump was able to make that deal, the things he does well that people, even reporters who aren't hostile to him, for some reason, I've never seen someone about whom so much is written and so little of it hits the mark about what he's actually like, what makes him good at what he does. So join me for that. Yeah.
I know you did all your research on Dan Senor.
Yeah.
Since you got Mark Bendar on, do you want a little intel for him?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, tomorrow it's his birthday, so a little heads up. You might want to butter him up.
Okay, I'll do.
This is
I'd like to get him a Brewers win after last night's heartbreaking 2-1 defeat. Because if they go down 2-0 at home, Dan, how many times have a major league team won a 7-game series after going down 2-0 at home?
The Red Sox did it, right?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Happens occasionally, not a lot.
Yeah, 20%.
I think the answer is not a lot. No, not that high. Thank you all who've emailed in and asked to inquire about investing in two-way. Again, please don't be upset at us if we don't get back to you right away. We're not starting a new round of investment quite yet, but we've got your names and we'll be in touch. And if you'd like to sponsor the program, and again, I've heard from some of you this week, so I'll remind folks, if you want to be a sponsor of this program or any other program in two-way, send us an email at sponsors@twoway.tv, sponsors@twoway.tv. Let us know what business you're in. Be nice if you let us know what kind of budget you have, at least tentatively, and we'll be in touch if we think it can work out. Thank you for your attention to that matter and to everything else, and we'll see you in 23 hours right back here. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye.